it's always good to be able to learn, on a win. So, the big thing, and I've talked a lot about our team and the need for us to continue to mature, right, and grow as a team. And I think the next step for us is to, obviously, is to close out games a little bit better than we have. It's kind of become a little bit of an issue the last couple of weeks. And the reality of it is, it really comes down to maintaining focus and intensity. Um, Execution fails when those things are lacking, and that's the big thing that we got to do. So as coaches, we got to help them in game, and we've talked about some things that we can do to keep them engaged on the sideline between series. Um, Practice this week, that's going to be the emphasis, right? We have to start fast, and then we've got to maintain our focus and intensity throughout the week. And you emphasize it, you challenge them, and our team. The one thing I know about them is that they absolutely respond. So this week, we've got a great opportunity to go up and face a really good Minnesota football team, um, and that's where our focus is right now moving forward. They're disciplined. They play really hard. They're extremely well coached. They have a really big, long football team. They got really good players. They're coming off of a really tough loss. Okay, so they had a game go just the way ours did, and they ended up coming up short. So I know we're going to get their best. We got to make sure they get ours. I have a ton of respect for Coach Fleck. I don't know him at all. I've followed him from whenever he kind of burst on the scene a little bit at Western Michigan, and really saw what he did there was incredible. And have followed him, while he's been at Minnesota, and everything that he seems to be about, the intensity, all the things that he talks about, the character in the team, they play that way. They fly to the football. They've built a really talented football team. I think that their schemes, there's beauty, man, in the simplicity of it. Like, they know exactly what they're doing, and those kids have probably gotten a million reps in those techniques and those things, and it shows. They're going to try to out execute you, and they've got some guys to do it. So it's going to take our best this week, our best week of preparation. It's going to take our best as a coaching staff to come up with a game plan that we can execute, and it's going to take certainly our best from our players to go out there and play all three phases as a team, to give ourselves a chance to win, because this is certainly going to be the biggest challenge we've faced this year.
Where are we offensive line?
Sir?
Where are we with the offensive line?
So we should have everybody back this week, which will be good.
Last week, you guys ran for 300. This week, nearly 300 again. And looking at the tape, what has kind of been standing out with how the running game has been recently?
Well, I think we got guys up front that are playing really hard. The Landon has done an excellent job communicating what we got, identifications, things like that. And we're playing really hard up front. It ain't always perfect, and it's kind of funny, our offensive line, staff with Coach Ross and Coach Nord, they didn't feel like we played great last week. They were a little frustrated with some of it. But we were playing really hard, and that includes the tight ends in the run game. They're a huge part of it. Zion's done a good job making sure we get into some good runs, which was always part of our game plan. And certainly, the running backs, they're explosive. They are doing a great job with their eye discipline. It's right where it needs to be. They're pressing the runs really hard, and they're explosive once they get through the first level. So it takes a lot of people to make it work. Our coaching staff has done a good job coming up with game plans that we can execute, and the kids have done a great job. You can keep going, right? You talk about the receivers blocking down the field. Zion ended up on a scramble, but had two big blocks from Neil and Pete. Draylon had two explosive runs back to back. Jake Bernard's blocking a safety, Pete's blocking the corner down the field 20 yards. So, and it's not just them. Rob Williams on the long touchdown that Kubota broke. He runs an RPO. He takes a 3-step break, gets in front of the corner, cuts him off, and the play breaks. So it's everybody that makes it go. We take pride in being able to run the football. Our receivers take pride in it. They know that we need to run the ball for them to be able to be open in the pass game. And so it takes everybody to make it work. And it's been pretty good so far. It's going to have to be better this week.
You tempoed them a couple of times and busted some big running plays. Was that something that you were pointing at maybe going in because of what they did?
They were very complex in their third down schemes. And to be honest with you, I didn't want to mess with it with a young quarterback. having to sort out protections and doing all that stuff. I mean, they had some stuff that's really very difficult for anybody. And I just didn't want to mess with it as much as we could. So we knew if we got into third and 5 or less, if we went fast, we could potentially get them from lining up in some of that stuff. As the game went on, we had success early doing it, and they tried to start getting us some of the pressures. And it's hard to fit a pressure in tempo. And Cabote's both of Cabote's long touchdown runs, they tried to bring the pressure and they misfit it, you know. So yes, it was part of the plan for them. You know, we're not a huge tempo offense. But at times we do like to try to use it, and that was against them. It was a good fit for us.
Coach, I know we've talked a lot about your defense up front and the success that they've had. Now up to 18 sacks, which is tops in the country. Just talk about what's been the key to their success early on.
Well, number one, I mean, you got good players, you know, and we've talked about that defensive line and the front and kind of what we felt that group could be for our team from the beginning. But you know, our defensive staff, you know, we had a good plan on defense, you know, and I know we talked about that a little bit. We had a good plan for those guys. And some of it straight rush where you're winning one-on-ones, and that's man on man, right? That's one guy against another. A lot of them, though, we had some pretty good games called, you know, and we're able to get called into good games, and some of it straight called. Some of it the linebackers got us into the right stunts or movements, and then certainly it comes down to execution. So again, it's like you asked about running the football. It's the same thing right there. It takes design, right? It takes communication to make sure that we have it called in the right settings, and then it takes execution to go out there and go do it. So you know, it takes a lot of different people to make it work, and certainly you got to cover on the back end, or it doesn't matter how fast you rush if they can get the ball out right away. So it's our individual success is a result of team success and result of team production, and it takes everybody doing their job. And if you don't, then it doesn't matter. I mean, you can have, you know, the greatest pass rushers up front that you want, but if you can't cover anybody and the ball's coming out right away, I mean, you're not going to get home. So it takes a lot of things to make it go. And that's something that for us, we need to hang our hat on. It needs to be a point of pride. I mean, we're getting a lot of pressure without having to pressure, if that makes any sense, you know, with 3 and 4 man rushes. And that lets you put more people on the back end covering. So, you know, we have to continue to do a good job there. And, you know, I keep coming back to it, but this week will be, you know, the biggest challenge that we've had in doing that, because, you know, they've got a pretty darn good front.
Good to see Johnson get in the end zone this weekend. Is there any idea of maybe leaning on him a little bit more going forward?
Who?
Johnson, tight end.
Yeah, I mean, Neil's got a bunch of catches this year. I mean, so yeah, I mean, he's always a big part of the game plan, and he's a really good player for us. So I mean, we always have things that are trying to go to him. This one just happened to be one that got him in the end zone, but he's got quite a few catches for us this year, and he's going to continue to do that. And he needs to continue to do that for us, because good tight end play is something that is important to me. I think it's a problem for defenses. So, you know, certainly, yeah, I mean, I hope he has a bunch more touchdowns, but, you know, regardless of kind of where it is in the field, I mean, in every area of the field, we have stuff for him, you know, and the quarterback has to go where the ball needs to go. So sometimes he might be the primary, and it's covered, and he's got to go to 2 or 3. And sometimes, hell, he might be number 4, you know, and the ball finds him. So, you know, he gets it a number of different ways. On that one, he was the primary. We did a good job executing it up front. He did a great job getting in phase with the quarterback, and really had great effort after the catch.
How would you grade Zion after you watch the film?
Zion played really well. I mean, I'm proud of him. You know, I mean, he, you know, a big part of it on offense, we had 1 penalty on offense. It was a holding penalty, and you can live with those. You know, those happen every now and then. It shouldn't. It's a technical thing we can fix. But we had no procedure penalties, which we had quite a few the week before. So he operated the offense much better, which that's the most important thing. I don't care who's back there. They've got to get the play call. They've got to get the operation in, and they've got to run it effectively. If you start having pre-snap penalties, then you're shooting yourself in the foot, and you got a real problem. So he did a really good job of that. I thought we had some stuff that he was really comfortable in running. And the new stuff that we had in was simple. It was, hey, it's this, then this. But he did an excellent job with that. He studied and prepared well. You know, he was really accurate as a passer after the first quarter, I thought. I thought the first quarter we were a little bit off on a couple things here and there. Um, the things that he needs to improve on, he needs to continue to work just on the very little things, his footwork. I mean, just every time being the same every time, and consistency in your footwork. People don't realize is your accuracy comes from your feet and your base. If your feet are all up, not many people can do what like Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre do, right? Where they throw off platform all the time. Patrick Mahomes. I mean, that's like that's the 1% of the 1%. For 99% of the quarterbacks out there, their feet need to be good. And he's really talented. And he can make off platform throws and do those things. But the reality of it is that you give yourself a better chance to be accurate when your fundamentals are the same every single time. So those are things that we've talked about with him, he's gotten much better at, and he's got to continue to get better at. But overall, I was pleased. The first interception, like I said before half, that's 100% my fault. In that situation, I called a play that he hasn't had as many reps in that situation in particular. And that's poor on my part. There's another set of plays that we've run that he's got, thousands of reps in since he's been here. And that's what you go to. You don't go to something that he hasn't had as many reps in. So that was, the miscommunication between him and the receiver could have been avoided. That the play shouldn't have been called. The other one, he's trying to throw it away. There's a smarter throwaway than what he took. That's a freshman mistake that he's a freshman. He's going to do that. You fast forward 3 or 4 years, when he's a junior or a senior, well then, yeah, I'm not real happy with it. But, they match it. They did a good job. There's a better way to throw that away. Talk about it. We'll fix it. He'll do it next time.
Have you made a decision on punt return yet?
I mean, every week, you got guys out there that are working to return it. And, every week Jake does it better, at practice. So, he's got to continue to work hard. He's got to continue to do it better. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. It comes down to technical stuff. He doesn't get behind the ball. He doesn't have his shoulder square going forward, and he doesn't catch it. The other ones, he did a really nice job and got him square. You can't put the ball on the ground, and that's, he knows that. We know that. Eric Guerra, his first year as a returner in 19, he had some struggles too, and he kept working. He kept winning the job every week at practice and ended up being an elite returner. So, we're going to challenge Jake this week to go do it better. We're going to put some other guys in the mix, and whoever does it better, we'll get the job moving forward. But that's just, we practice, we've got a lot of reps in it. He's won the job. He's just got to continue to win the job every day and do a good job there.
Minnesota's offense, the way they do it, they have the potential to shorten the game, especially with the new rules. Is that a concern for you, and does that make it even more important to get off to a good start?
Yeah, it's a huge concern. I mean, you can't start slow against them because they will shrink the game. You got to move the ball effectively. You got to get points on the board early. You don't want to be behind them. I mean, I know what happened in the last game. It's not typical for what happens with Minnesota. That's a fluke, and if you think you're going to come back like that, you're going to be upset more times than not. So it's certainly a concern. You watch Eastern Michigan, who I have a lot of respect for Eastern Michigan. I think they're well coached. I think they're a good football team. They got 45 plays in the game. By contrast, we've been running close to 70, between almost 70 and 80 every game. So you're talking about potentially, almost half. So yeah, that's a concern. You have to start fast. It's an 11 a.m. kickoff, which will be different for us. It'll be different for them. So it's you got to handle those circumstances better. But this week, an emphasis has got to be starting fast and keeping our focus and intensity up, because if you get behind them, they're gonna squeeze the ball, and they're good at it. It's not like they're just squeezing it, punting it back to you. They're chewing up clock and they're eating up yards, and they run it really effectively. They've got a quarterback that you can tell is really comfortable in what they're doing. Really quick release. He's got great arm talent. And he's really, to me, he's a lot like Ben. He's a much better athlete than what maybe you give him credit for. Like, the guy gets out of trouble and he can run the football. So You don't want to be behind them, and certainly offensively, we can't do what we did the last 2 weeks where it takes two drives, kind of figure it out, and then all right on three we start going. If you do it against them, I mean, you're looking at a short game, and you're not looking at a lot of time to get it going.
Coach, Minnesota's going to present an environment
Got
that
another one.
a lot of your younger guys probably aren't used to. Is that a concern for you, and how do you maybe try to prepare them for that kind of environment?
Well, I mean, the only thing that you really worry about it is really more the noise. I mean, it's from what I understand, it's an awesome environment up there, a great stadium, and from what I've heard, they've got a great fan base up there. So I mean, that's all you worry about a little bit is the communication. We'll work some of that on. We always do on Thursday, but we'll work it on Wednesday as well this week. Um, once you get between the lines, it's all that stuff is kind of just out there. It's not that big of a deal. You just want to make sure that you get used to the nonverbal communication. And then with Z making sure that he's loud in the calls and things like that, so everybody can hear him. But I mean, I think those things are fun. Like that's fun to play in an environment like that. Like, we played at Old Dominion. That was a really good environment too. It's not a big crowd, but they're in there tight on you. It was loud. It was really good. So those are fun ones to play in. Um, and I think, for us, we keep talking about the opportunity. I mean, this is fun, man. You get to go up there and go play a game that, um, shoot, I mean, nobody outside of our building thinks we're going to win. So that's even better. We get to go out there and go let it hang and play loose.